This podcast is intended for mature audiences and contains adult language and subject matter. Listeners, please be advised.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinking with Your Ex. I am Bonnie Neal.
And I am Blake Thompson.
And we are welcoming you back. This is our podcast that we started because Blake and I are exes, and we both find ourselves in the unique position of being over 40 and single with wildly strong opinions about what each one of us is still single and over 40.
Some of those opinions are absolutely hilarious.
Because they're so fucking true. But anyway, the point of our podcast, right, we're doing this for you guys, is we have 3 rules. The first rule is that each podcast is inspired by a certain alcohol or cocktail that relates to this week's theme.
And the second rule is we get to introduce each other, which is always a little bit of edge play when you're giving a blank check to your ex to introduce you to the world.
And, you know, maybe write each other's Tinder headlines. We're working that out. And our third rule is that we each get to ask each other an uncomfortable question that the other one must answer.
And it will be about the topic of the night. There's no safeties. There's no backouts. There's no going, no.
There might be pauses for refills, but yeah, we're going to do this. All right, tonight's topic is
Sex in your 40s.
A negotiation in bondage. Yes. So this is honestly, this podcast has just been amazing. We've had it sort of take off and had a lot of listeners. It's just been phenomenal. But one of the consistent questions is like, dating over your 40s, like, how do you have sex with a new partner over your 40s, right? How do you deal with like getting naked in front of a stranger? And I'm like,
Ooh.
well, I mean, I guess we need to go there. I need I need my alcohol. Anyway, so rule number 1, if we are, inspired by a cocktail, basically we have 2 of them because Blake and I are unique snowflakes who much each have a cocktail. So tonight's is inspired by the cocktail that both of us will order when we are having that time to get down night, bomb chicka bam pound, and it's our classy cocktail order, just one, that'll give us the liquid courage to get naked. All right, Blake, what is your cocktail inspired by?
My cocktail is always inspired by a Manhattan on the rocks, made with Michter's small batch rye, Antica vermouth, and orange bitters.
Interesting. On the rocks. Ooh, that's bold. That's edgy. I dig it.
You can't go wrong with, 3 solid shots of whiskey.
True. Oddly, as much of a whiskey aficionado as I am, my inspired by cocktail for the bomb chicka bow night is a dirty gin martini Hendrix 3 olives.
Oh, fancy.
6 ounces of love and courage. Love it. All right. So let's introduce each other to the world. All right. Second time.
All right. Let me introduce my ex, Bonnie Neal. She's an avid writer, a conversation aficionado with a wicked sense of humor.
Aw, I love her being so sweet to each other. I recently had to introduce Blake. I had a friend that I think they would totally hit it off, and I had to say, so this is my ex, Blake, and, former undercover narcotics officer, bouncer, current therapist, but he's kind of one of those people that people just talk to. They just say things to, they just trust, they just, kind of word vomit their entire history on, and, that's an interesting creature to be around. I also did tell her she should listen to the podcast and then tell me whether or not she really wanted the introduction. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen, my ex, Blake Thompson. Yay, nicely done.
Right on. We were both nice to each other.
Yeah, because, Jesus is going to get interesting. Okay, so the topic, sex in your 40s, a negotiation in bondage. So This is the thing. All right, so
we're going to cover a lot of ground tonight, everyone. When you're thinking about, just the
sorry. All right, so the first obvious thing is, what do you do when you're about to get naked in your 40s around somebody new? And my first answer is choose flattering lighting or no lighting at all. Blake's suggestion was
I suggested a blindfold because let's start getting into those kinks early.
yeah, a blindfold is just make it work for everybody, right? Like two birds, one stone. It is both kinky and flattering lighting. I love it. Well, I mean, because that's just it, right? Like, a 40-year-old body is different from a 20-year-old body, which is different from a 30-year-old body. And, just get the fuck over it, frankly. But that's easier said than done.
As much as we like to plan in our 40s.
Plan.
And sometimes it's spontaneous. Like the chance of nookie comes up and you're all of a sudden, I'm so excited. Oh God, what am I going to do?
Right. Which is where I feel like the alcohol comes in, because the alcohol, and I hate it. I mean, I know you guys have heard me that I feel like we're over 40. We should be allowed to have sex without alcohol, without being drunk. The interesting thing about sex in your 40s, especially with a new partner, is I think, especially the first time, a little bit of liquid courage allows a graceful excuse for a lot of sins, right? And that's not a bad thing. Hydraulics are a thing. Performance anxiety is a thing. Maybe there's not a blindfold handy is a thing.
All of a sudden, it's like you're taking your pants off and you're tripping your pants leg.
Right, and other such smooth moves.
I'm graceful. I am a swan.
I'm something. I don't know. I'm not saying that the romance and sex is dead. I'm also just saying that, there's a perception in media and in this country that only thin, beautiful people are allowed to have sex, which is obviously not true.
Not at
there's
all.
an awful lot of us that aren't on, Hollywood squares, or that's not even a thing. And a lot of us are.
Wow.
Shut up.
That is an incredible pop culture.
Instagram influencers, right? Shout out millennials. Love you. But right, I don't know that. Sex with a new person in your 40s, it's hard, and it's nervous making, it's anxiety making. FYI, both of you guys are nervous, and if one of you is not #dating a narcissist, just saying, that's a red flag.
Could be a red flag.
If the person coming into their 40s about getting naked around somebody is like, I've got this, and they have the Superman pose, and they're just like, don't have the slightest bit of anxiety around it, run, don't walk, you're dating a fucking narcissist. This is bad.
You never
Red
know.
flag.
Or they could just have a really high self-esteem and a great sense of humor.
Okay. All right. I mean, you're the trained therapist. I'm not a, statistics expert. How often do you think? I mean, okay, go fine. That's fine. Sure, I'm sure that exists. Yes. True. But in the real world, counselor, that the rest of us live in, yes, that it's
Joking aside, in the real world, you have a lot of people that are nervous, especially if they haven't been intimate with somebody in a while. They haven't been in a relationship in a while, and so forth.
Or, I mean, what happens a lot in your 40s is that you're dating somebody who's coming out of a divorce, and that they've, the only person they've technically slept with, or that they're willing to admit on the record, for the past, 10, 15, 12 years.
Their last ex and partner.
Yeah. And what I've learned is that people coming back into the dating scene in their 40s are getting told some really bad advice. They're getting told some fucking word stories. I recently was talking to a client of mine who is a very recent widower, and he's in his mid to late 40s. And he was telling me that he was talking to some of he's in sales, and he was talking to some of his younger salespeople, and they were like, "Oh yeah, man, tossing a salad is totally a thing. You got to be prepared to do that on the first date." And he was like, "What? I don't. What?" And I was like, I think they may be pulling your leg there a little bit. It's you can totally wait until the third date to toss the salad.
Second date, third date, maybe. I mean, it depends how the chemistry is working.
But I had to say, but yes, ass play is more in play, for lack of a better word, than maybe it was the last time you were on the dating scene.
Mm-hmm.
Also, again, full consent and communication.
Yes, because no one wants the surprise pop.
Yes, that would be called assault.
Yes.
But yeah. So there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of scary things out there.
Absolutely.
I hate to say this, and this is obviously something that I am not practicing, but I'm totally willing to dole out this advice. Why do you think I started a podcast? You're welcome. Is you just kind of have to talk about it. And honestly, that's kind of where we got with this sex over your 40s a negotiation in bondage. I mean, BDSM play involves a lot of negotiation and a lot of upfront communication, and honestly, sex in your 40s needs to involve that too.
A lot of communication, a lot of upfront information.
Yeah, you kind of...
We're not blindly running into it like we did in our 20s.
Because if you do that, I mean, it does happen, right? I have a friend of mine who is, in her mid-40s, and she's a big believer of just, like, drinking too much and slipping and falling on somebody's dick. She apparently, I mean, it worked when you're 16, 26, 36, let's go for 46. It's the multiple decades approach to relationship starting. And honestly, there's I think in our 40s, we have to recognize that we are both tougher in some ways, but wildly more fragile in others. And if you just sort of leave it to the same sort of haphazard happenstance of drunken hookups,
it just doesn't work.
Well, I feel like you're just increasing your odds of something really painful or humiliating or relationship killingly awkward, right? To happen that just sort of it just seems like the stakes are higher.
Yes.
And maybe you need to be just a little bit more thoughtful and purposeful and kind. Woo! Man,
Yeah.
I feel like we're just starting a one-man band pushing out this idea of kindness in dating. Whoa.
And also, don't be afraid to laugh.
Yeah. All right. So I actually had a friend of mine who was recycling an ex. I mean, it happens. It's in COVID, right? Recycling an ex. And, they rolled over and he kind of like elbowed onto her hair and she just started laughing. She's like, ow, ow, ow. And he freaked the fuck out. Don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh. And I'm like, okay. Oof. No, I mean, I kind of laugh when I watch like chimpanzees having sex. Why would two Homo sapiens having sex not be like laughable?
Anybody that's watched porn bloopers, this is endlessly hysterical.
Porn bloopers.
Yeah.
I have not, but now I know what I'm gonna Google tonight. Thanks, Blake.
You're welcome. I'm
porn
a helper.
bloopers. Yes, I need to see that. But yeah, this is a funny, awkward, hot thing, but that we all want to do. But let's maybe just kind of...
Romance is fine. Intimacy is fine, but you got to have some humor in that. Because sooner or later, something's going to happen that's hilarious.
Right. So one of us is going to have to put in our nighttime retainer, right?
Yeah.
There's
It's like you're going to walk in and, wow.
The CPAP machine comes out, right? Something's going to break the romance.
Excuse me. It's like, I hope you don't mind this. This is my Darth Vader.
Because let's just be honest, right? The spirit is willing, but the flesh, right? The flesh has gotten real, man.
Yes, it's like we're no longer in the primes of our lives. We're gonna well, I'm not bad, but you know what? COVID wasn't kind to me.
We've all been on the COVID diet for 2 years, and that sometimes that involved a lot more Taco Bell than any of us are willing to admit.
Oh.
Their stock is up, by the way. But so obviously there's more of us than there aren't. But I don't know. God, I mean, there's a lot of jokes we can make, and we will. Don't you worry. But at the end of the day, it's like, be kind both to yourself and be kind to the other person, and only one drink. That's kind of my rule. Like I'm fine, and that's the reason why I love that it's Manhattan. It's 6 ounces of alcohol. I love that it's a martini, also 6 ounces of alcohol.
Absolutely.
But solamente uno, right? Liquid courage with one. Because if you have liquid courage, if you have more than 1, 2, 3, then whiskey dick becomes a thing. Then
yes, it does.
Involuntary anal sex becomes a thing, right? Then accidentally calling her your mama also becomes a thing, right? You don't want to.
Or you start disclosing your most lurid fantasy, and it's like, oh, where did that come from?
Well, okay, so sex in your 40s, right? After you've gotten over that initial popping of the cherry, so to speak, right?
Yes, because you're trying to figure out, does my combo lock still work? Come on. I remember doing this the last time I had sex. Does this work yet? Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no, what do I do? The things that used to make me come don't make me come no more. Fuck. This seems like a really awkward time to start that conversation. And I'm all right. Okay, all right. The first time, maybe give it a mulligan, maybe be like, yeah, it felt good, but I was a little too much in my head, couldn't really come. Maybe we should bring out out some toys. Maybe we should talk a little bit. I hate it all comes back to fucking talking. God.
I know. Open communication, everyone.
I just wish, I think our listeners do understand what it's like to have these conversations and then stare across the way and see a trained therapist who you kind of know can see all the insecurities behind every statement you make. And I'm like, oh, Blake knows what the answer to this awkward question is. And I guess it's going to be talk more. Fuck you. But okay, we're both in therapy. So yes, usually the answer is talk more. Whoa.
Absolutely.
Well, and I don't know. Communication can be sexy. Communication can be awkward, but they can awkward sexy, right? Hey, geek love, man. If none
There's
of
a
us were
lid
into
for
an
every pie.
if none of us were into an awkward kink, techies would never get laid. So, So after you go past the first time, right?
Yeah, after the first time, it's...
And the first time seems like a gauntlet,
Yeah.
right? Like,
The
let's get
second
over this finish line.
Yeah. And the second time is a little bit more planning, a little bit more intimacy, maybe.
Less performance anxiety, maybe?
Yeah, less performance anxiety. All of a sudden, there also might be electric chemistry.
Right.
Where all of a sudden, all right.
Woo! You're walking around, you're like, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man. No time to talk. You're doing your own little Saturday Night Fever.
For all you millennials out there, she's singing the Bee Gees.
John Travolta in my head, but thank you. Yeah, when you're feeling it, right? That's the upside. But combo luck, right? If we just go into this knowing that everybody, men, women, in between genders, all the things, there's a combo luck. There is a certain set of steps and touches and maybe words, maybe outfits, maybe positions that needs to happen, maybe toys that needs to happen, certain stimuli that needs to happen to make the climax.
Yes, not to recycle old jokes. Yes, please stand on one foot and sing. We didn't start
We
the
didn't
fire.
start the fire. That was just the weirdest one ever. I was like, what? And if you mess it up, you have to start all over again. Not fair, not fair. I don't have time for this. Yeah, that's kind of where sometimes that happens in the first time. I do feel like if you are confident enough to be able to here's kind of what I need to get over this finish line during the first time, power on. I know that I have not historically been brave enough to reveal the details of my combo luck on the first night.
Yes. We're talking about the combo luck conversation might be third night, fourth night.
But it needs to happen.
Yeah, it does.
And it probably needs to happen earlier rather than later.
Yeah, and also sober.
And honestly, the reason why, all right, ladies and gentlemen and everyone listening, the reason why the combo lock conversation has to happen is because, bitches, we are over 40 and life is too short to have bad fucking sex anymore at all. And bad sex, for my opinion, this is where maybe we disagree. Bad sex means you do not climax. I'm not saying you must climax every time, but for the first maybe 10, 12 times, yes, I think climax is the goal here. And if you're not, or they're not, you have to talk about it.
Oh, no, exactly. Sometimes it's not the motion of the ocean anymore. It's something more complicated.
Well, okay. I'm going to introduce a delicate topic, but I need you to tell me the truth. The inability to get or maintain an erection sometimes with men over 40 means that sex just stops. And all I want to kind of say to them is dude, you have 10 fingers and a tongue. I don't know why this needs to stop right now, right? Are we all from Kentucky? Is penetration the only thing that happens? Is that the only sex that can happen, right? But what is that a mean thing to say in bed?
It's not a mean thing to say. It's
10 fingers and a tongue.
That's what I mean. Give direction.
Yay.
If someone's not doing something right, don't be afraid to get in there and teach. Because one, they do not know what turns you on. It's an exploration. And if you're not communicating with it, it's okay, I am blindfolded and in the dark.
Okay. I would also say that, will you admit that if a man cannot maintain an erection, sometimes talking to them is like talking to a suicide bomber with a vest on? right? Like you say the wrong thing, everything's just gonna fucking explode, right? And not in the good way, in the kind of like potential violence or shutdown way, right? Like it's real hard to have a conversation with a man naked in bed with them and like the erection isn't happening. There are men who have been like, hey man, this is just like whiskey dick, or they have like the reason like that one shot of alcohol is a real kind of fun thing. It just sort of like gives us all the plausible deniability on things. Who are willing to talk through, and I'll be like, all right, let's look at my toy collection. Let's look at like you got 10 fingers and a tongue, party, right? But what should you do when the man is shutting down? Like what can be done then?
I would like engage in a little bit of foreplay yourself. See where it goes.
Like turn yourself on or turn themselves like touching them.
Touching that. Well, why not both?
I mean, I only have 2 hands, but
Yeah.
and I'm not super dexterous with my toes, but I'm willing to try.
This is a talk it out moment.
All right, so you've told a story about having that conversation with your partner, and she made some tea and being like, "What's happening here?"
Yeah.
Is that a conversation? Is that the time for the other person in the bed to be like, you know what? Let me make some tea or coffee, or let's have some soda, and like let's just talk this out.
Talk it out. What can I do for you?
Nothing. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Or like the piercing crickets of silence. I mean, I'm just saying, like I've had these experiences where, yeah, like their shame and humiliation fills up the entire room, and I'm like, it can't really be this big, can it? It's just sex. Bonobos do it, man. Squirrels do it. It's really fucking weird, right? Like let's all like have a little sense of humor about this. What is so? All right. I mean,
Okay, let's see. For most of your heteronormative males, you do get the, oh God, my manhood is at stake.
Okay.
Because I can't do it.
So break that down a little bit for me. What does that even mean?
But you're talking about the reactions you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, so what does it mean to have your manhood at stake? Like, what does that mean? That seems. I mean, does that mean like you're gonna lose your house? You're gonna lose an eye? Is it an existential threat? Is that what it feels like?
Well,
You're
for
like
some,
you're dying if you can't get it up.
Well, again, we're also talking about for men over their 40s. This is when the plumbing stops working. Oh my God, is this going to become a regular thing? Am I going to need extra help with this? There's a rabbit hole. There's a whole rabbit hole that men do fall down.
Which is, yeah. I mean,
oh my God, is this a one-time thing? Is it anxiety? All of a sudden, their mind is going a million miles an hour, and now there's a complete disconnect.
Right. From themselves and their body, and definitely from whoever else is involved in this, right?
Exactly.
So that's what the shutdown is.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm getting the distinct impression humor isn't welcome in that moment. So don't make a joke, ladies. Don't make a joke. But also,
also this depends on your partner.
But it goes back to the idea of like be kind, both to him and to you. And maybe point out this kind of course this is, right? Like of course this is silly, of course this isn't as easy as it was when we were 16, 26, 36, but nothing is except for getting a better credit score. That's the only thing that gets better when you get older. Kindness, right? But talking about it, you have to talk about it.
Talk it through. Don't be afraid to talk it through.
In your professional and personal male opinion, is it better to push that conversation right then and say like, hey, let's get out of bed, let's go sit in the living room, like let's go sit in the car, let's just have a conversation now, right?
Yeah.
Or is it better to just like, well, let's just go to sleep and sleep it off and see how the morning goes?
I think that let's go to sleep and sleep it off and see how the night goes. I think that does more harm than good, just because both of you are going to bed with uncertainty.
Yeah, I find it impossible to fall asleep in that moment, right? Like, I'm just like, I'm going to pretend to follow.
Okay, I'm going to pretend to fall asleep now. No, it's...
Right. Okay, so...
And all of a sudden you have an individual beside you that can't perform. And also this is a two-way street as well, because much like
he, if he has a problem, like, maintaining erection, ladies, I do think they kind of notice after 40 if you're faking it, right? Yeah. I think they're aware of what a real orgasm feels like.
Or like if, say, I mean, like this is a two-way street, say, where you're like hoping it's like, is it a slip and slide or is it not?
Well, I mean, but that's also kind of like a biological thing, right? Sometimes
it's a biological thing.
Sometimes the lubrication system, doesn't work as fast or as consistently as one might want, right? Again, that this sort of body changes works both ways. It's not honestly, this is where kind of like, time is an equalizer for us all.
I mean, we're on equal footing especially like when you're dating someone that is in your age bracket.
Right.
It's Like, there's a lot of uncertainty when you're walking in that room. Giving yourself and your partner grace is some of the best advice I can give.
Yes.
And go in there. Don't go in there with expectations. I know that sounds hard.
Well, explain that.
intended.
Like, how does one not go into a, sexual encounter without expectations? How does one go in like completely fucking zen? And maybe tantric hippies do, but like, I'm just saying, like, how does one go in there without, like, you go in with expectations of like, hey, this is gonna be fun. I like you, you like me. Let's get our squishy parts together, right? Your whatever weird ass song you're singing in your head. Maybe that's only me. Don't judge. Anyway, shut up, Blake. How do you go in without expectations? That seems a tall order. What do you mean by that?
This is where I'm getting a little bit existential. Yes.
Deep, kinky. Go ahead.
But I mean, like, living in the moment. You have connected with another human being that is sexually attracted to you.
Okay.
You're not sure where the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 60 minutes are going to go.
Correct. I think we are planning on doing an entire podcast about like body image and the things that happen. But I think this is the important thing to say, both for everyone involved in this, about over 40s. If you've already gotten to the bedroom kissing part, they've already signed on for this ride. They like the sign of like stretch marks or, maybe in a roll in a place they weren't expecting you to, like your thighs. That's not going to make them walk away, right? They've already signed on for this jelly. Do you know what I mean? And so if you can try to get over whatever kind of, enculturated body shaming you've got and just sort of like go with it, right? Because like they've already agreed to fuck this, and just kind of trust that there's nothing they're going to see or touch that's going to just be utterly revolting, unless there's a weird hygiene issue.
Consent's all happening, everything's great, and then you're moving forward. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Right, but believe they kind of want to be there, right? And they're not going to be like throw their hands up in disgust and like, I cannot work in these conditions and run away. That seems unlikely to happen.
Like these are things to talk. It's like, okay, do we need more lube? Do we need helpers?
So this was the best advice I ever got from my gay best friend, which is more lube is never a bad idea. There's no such thing as too much lube. More lube. When in doubt, use more lube, right? When you think you have enough lube, just add more lube. And that is excellent advice. I feel like anybody who is a sexual creature should have at least 3 different kinds of lube available at all times right next to their bedstand. If you want to know how to like be a faithful, a good giving and game sexual partner in your 40s, buy 3 different kinds of lube, all water soluble, which means they play well with latex and silicone toys. There you go. That's how to show that you're like, hey, I still got it, baby. And I'm like, I walk in and see 3 different kinds of lube. I'm like, yes, I'm dealing with a grown-up.
Basically, Bonnie's telling everybody, make sure you have your courtesy drawer there.
Courtesy drawer?
Courtesy drawer.
I mean, all right. Or just play them proudly. It's fine. But
it's like, Papa. It's like, let me open the cupboard. You're like Batman, and here's the sex toy cupboard.
So I feel like, the negotiation, right? A negotiation in bondage. Is our title, Negotiation in Bondage. So the negotiation is that you kind of you have to use your words at this point, right? You kind of do. You have to know what it is you don't like. I feel like that's kind of stuff you got to say up front. But you also kind of have to be able to, well, as you said, be able to talk about
Be able to talk.
things.
Also, be able to take direction.
Yes.
I think in a new sexual encounter, it's like you're both getting to know each other. Find out where the spots are.
Right. Well, add an element of curiosity and exploration to it, right? But I feel like there needs to be more words involved in that, right? Because it used to be like you used to be able to like hear like a change in tone. Yeah, right there, right? And now it's like to the left, the other left, more lefter. But you use your words, right?
Yeah, please use your words. Use your hands.
10 fingers and a tongue. I'm just saying.
Or not even that. You also have a pointer right here. This is the spot.
Right that spot. No. Not there. No. This spot.
Over. And there it is.
There you go. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Don't be afraid to do that, and be prepared for like shit to change, right?
Yes. Not everything that you used to do will turn you on.
Yeah.
You could be with a different person and have completely different chemistry.
Correct.
And you might be attracted to something you've never been attracted to.
Yeah, that is both exciting and somewhat frightening.
Yes. Because depending on, there's like fine lines between it's attraction, now it's fetish.
Well, what is that line, right? I think we've gotten into those conversations sometimes with some of our fans on Facebook, right? What is a I don't know, I feel like this is just an existential conversation. What's the difference between a genuine sexual desire and a fetish? The eye of the beholder, right? The need, the nicheness of it, right? The singularity of it, maybe.
Yes.
That may be what it is, right?
Because there's certain things like you're in a
Sexual desires seem like a wide variety, whereas a fetish seems really narrow and specific.
yes, like incredibly specific.
To the exclusion of all things, right? And but you know what? Hey, I'm also like a fan of fetishes too, right? There's something kind of straightforward about them, right?
And it's also exciting when you learn of a partner's fetish, especially if you do it spontaneously.
Elaborate. What does that mean?
Well, if it's an accidental find, it's like, oh, you like that.
What's an accidental fetish find? Is it like toes, feet?
Well, it could be toes, feet,
Like ass play? Is it like armpits, right?
armpits. You know,
I mean, golden shower seems like something you need to negotiate ahead of time, right?
rubber sheets. Everybody invest in them.
It's true. If you want to get the lube, get the rubber sheets. Just go all the way.
Because one, it's like if you have too much lube, you can have a lot of fun on the slip and slide.
But, hold off on maybe buying the sling. It does tend to scare off people. Just saying. But if you want the sling, and once you buy it, right, worth every penny.
If you walk in and you see O-rings hanging out at everybody's ceiling, make sure they're in studs, everybody.
All right, so that's the next step, right? Okay. So talking about combo lock, these are the steps, these are the touches that I need to achieve climax, and then there's talking about fetishes, talking about kind of very specific desires, and then there is kink, right? Which is, what is the definition of kink besides BDSM? Kink and BDSM seem to be synonymous, but I'm not quite sure about. Like, I think that language has changed over
anything
time.
can be a kink.
Okay, so kink tends to involve sort of
Kink is anything out of the norm.
a norm being like straightforward missionary vanilla sex.
Yeah, so like when you're sitting there talking about vanilla sex, and if you really think about it, reverse cowgirl or doggy style could be considered a kink.
Correct. Okay.
Just
Okay.
because we're having sex for fun, everybody. It's not okay. I'm here to do the job.
Right. Yeah. If you have somebody who is clocking in
Yeah.
with the same kind of defeated look as a West Virginia coal miner, yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. Come on. A bit more enthusiasm, folks, would be nice. Okay.
But again, anything outside the norm could be a kink.
Right. Okay. So sometimes disclosing fetishes and disclosing the combo lock is disclosing a kink.
Yes.
And BDSM is a type of kink, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it does also seem to be kind of a different flavor
Yes.
to the norm, right? And that hands down needs to involve a lot more conversation. Even though the blindfold is introduced at the beginning, I would like to emphasize that the blindfold is a real fun thing to do at the beginning, because if somebody agrees to it, it does kind of lower the anxiety on both sides, weirdly.
Also, there's some trust being built here.
There is, but it's really low level power play that kind of plays into lowers, I feel like it does lower the anxiety of both partners, right? Because sensory deprivation in all forms is usually pretty hot.
Yes, and it also raises the tactile sensation.
Correct. It learns to focus, and it also is a trust play for somebody who's agreeing to be blindfolded by you, right? And then that means you you have all the power. Yeah.
That's where all the play and exploration comes in.
Right. Okay, so I see this a lot, right? Or man, and it goes back to the poly conversation with the online dating. If you are into the BDSM kink scene, and that is kind of integral to your combo lock, should you disclose that up front and center? Should that be on your online dating profile? Should that be something you talk about the first date?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
So it's like poly. It's something like it's a presenting disclosure.
If you're presenting that you like to be in a dominant or a submissive role, and you prefer wearing certain clothing, using certain toys, competing in certain activities, where this is your specific combo lock, all the numbers,
and you only kind of saying that you kind of only want to play with certain players who've leveled up to that level, right?
Exactly. That's something.
That's where that's where Fet Life exists, right?
Yeah.
It's because you're kind of looking for sort of not there's room for amateurs, but this is not for the dabblers. This is
it's not just Fet Life. Instagram has a huge kink community.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. We need to swap some Instagram
My
information.
Instagram
later.
is my id. So, I mean,
Instagram is your id.
everything I like on this green earth is in my Instagram page.
That's really strange because the things that you have suggested for me to put into my Instagram fame are epic fails and, cats, bodega cats of New York and corgi love. And I'm like, that's an odd choice there, Blake. Okay, that's an odd mix. Now you're telling me it's all kind of kinky too. I'm like, okay, well, there's
Well, it's like
corgi love meets spank a monkey.
like tattoos, motorcycles, bondage.
But all right, so this is you can tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, right? So one of my best friends, truly one of my best friends, is very much heavily into the gay leather scene, and BDSM as part of his identity, part of his relationship, part of every relationship in which he gets into. I don't think I want to be part of the scene. I've always found the scene to be quite intimidating and kind of, again, sort of like not the actual flavor that I'm looking for.
Well, that's just one facet of a giant community.
Well, I agree, and so like he does not stay confined to the gay male leather scene, right? It branches out, right? They've got multitudes. So I've seen all the ones that honestly, in many ways, that I feel like the queer leather BDSM scene is a lot more welcoming and respectful than the het BDSM scene that I've experienced specifically in Texas. I found it better in other states, but Texas is just got the kind of boundaries like Greg Abbott would want the whole world to have, which means no. So I don't know. I guess it's just sort of like being like, this is a kind of sex that I like. I don't know if I necessarily want to make it a lifestyle choice.
But again, this is something that if a person's into those certain things, they should have it on their dating profile. And to be candid, like scrolling through Facebook profiles, scrolling through Tinder profiles, and just other social networking, part of their identity.
So how should somebody who's maybe kink curious, but not kind of willing to say it's part of their identity, like what should they swipe right on that? Should they swipe left? Like I don't know. I feel like in some ways putting out there of some kinks right up front is intimidating, and it I don't know. I feel like I'm just revealing myself. I'm intimidated by their straightforward dishonesty, and so therefore I back away. And I'm like, all right, I'm learning things about myself. All right, go ahead. Let's move on past this topic. Blake, you talk. Shh.
Like in earlier discussions, what used to turn me on when I was younger no longer does. And it's evolved, where there's certain things where I know I have to be intellectually stimulated before I want to get into the physical act.
So you have said that before. What exactly does that mean? Because I understand what that means as a cis female, in that, like, I've heard it said that for cis het females, the biggest sexual organ is the mind.
Right.
You kind of have to seduce their mind, and the body is there, right? Then the body will come along. Is that kind of what you mean, or are you talking about like you need the presenting female to stimulate your intellect? What do you mean exactly by that statement?
What I mean intellectually stimulated, and it's like I'm not saying like as measuring their intelligence or anything of that nature, where I'm in a dynamic conversation where I want more from that person. I want to hear more. I want to.
You want what? You want them to say you're finding their mind to be like as sexy as the cleavage, right? Sexier than their cleavage?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Okay. I mean, and that's changed, just to call you shallow again? Has that changed?
No. I'm saying now I have to be more intellectually stimulated, back to where I could be shallow and go, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, where you used to be able to, like, forgive me, I'm just going to be super vulgar. You used to be able to fuck dumb chicks and it's fine. Is that kind of what you're saying? I just, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I kind of want to.
Wow.
I kind of want to speed this up a touch. Is that what you're saying? It sounds like that's what you're saying. Would you like to correct my characterization?
As Bonnie's putting it slightly, Blake doesn't want to fuck stupid. Is that what we're?
I mean, that's fine. If that's your statement, that's a hill you're going to die on. I just want to point out that means he was totally okay fucking stupid earlier. It's fine. You do you, boo. It's fine.
And Miss Neal, because I know history, throwing stones. Now, let's talk about some.
Are you saying that I have fucked stupid? that what you're saying? I feel like that's what you're saying. I mean, we can't say names on this, but maybe in the aftercare, I'm going to need you to like spell it out in sign language because I'm not quite sure. Oh, never mind. I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, fine. Fine. Not so much stupid so much as like Lone Star soaked, but same thing. Got it. All right, fine. Where were we? So now you need to be intellectually stimulated to get hard.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, these things we're learning about Blake.
I'd rather be honest about that.
So you've told a woman that she's too stupid, you can't
I've
continue
never
to
told
date her?
her.
Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or you've just been like, not for me, right? And
Right.
moved on. Okay.
Like, I know within 15 minutes to a half hour of conversation.
We were saying about this. Okay, so yeah, do you still know, right? Like we have a friend of ours who insists that instant sexual chemistry is a deal breaker with her. That if she doesn't know that she wants to fuck you within the first 15 minutes of meeting you, she will never want to fuck you. And that kind of instant chemistry is utterly required. That's the way it was when she was 16. That's the way it must be when she's 46. And I'm like,
Wow.
Is that what you're talking about, or is
I'm not saying it's instantaneous. It's not instantaneous for me. I want to talk and get to know you as a human being.
Okay.
And while that's occurring, whatever topic we're talking about piques my interest or excites me.
Okay.
Especially like telling me about a dynamic trip you went on, or watching someone get animated.
Right. So the chemistry is sparked.
Yes.
By the personality, by the interaction.
Yes.
Right?
It's not walking back and it's like, yeah, I'd do that.
It's not unrelated to the physicality, right? Because I feel like that's too. I have very rarely just fucked pretty, right? Like that in my opinion you really can't fix stupid. He was not stupid. He was a drunk, but he was very talented. That's my defense, just to bring it back to me. But in many ways, how a person looks is usually the least interesting thing about them. It's not unrelated to my attraction to them, but it's usually not the top 5 of the sparking, right, of the interest. And kind of what I feel like you're saying. But you do kind of know within 15 minutes of meeting whether.
Like you're having a conversation and then like the physical chemistry could happen. You can walk by and catch a scent.
Okay. I mean, for me, it usually happens with the mind, right? They usually say something that I've never thought of before. They say something that I find interesting. I'm like, whoo,
right.
Tell me more. Let me bring my FBI interrogation kit. I've got it, but
Bonnie Spotlight.
It's how I flirt. I'm told I need to just roll with it, and I'll find somebody who loves it. Okay. Well, I feel like we've moved in a lot of spaces. Well, we're at that time of the uncomfortable question time of the conversation because we've laughed and kind of called each other jerks and assholes, or maybe that was just me. All right, Blake, I'm going to go with the uncomfortable question first. All right,
Okay.
Here I go. So your last relationship, you guys met when you were like 44, 45.
Yep.
Right? What was y'all's first time like? Because she was younger than you. She was not 40. She was not a child, but she was not in the sex after 40 fundum. What was that first time like?
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
I mean, you're smiling, but was it absurdly hilarious? Was there clowns? I mean, like what was
Oh,
that?
no. It was just ridiculously fun and embarrassing for both of us because like I was standing next to her and she hugged me and she said, "God damn, you're tall."
You are 8 feet tall.
And so I dropped down on my knees and said, "Okay, is this better?" And I leaned up and looked at her and she kissed me.
Aw.
And so kissing started. We got on the couch and things are happening. And all of a sudden I feel her hand creep, goes to my crotch.
Right? Yeah.
And she does it's not a squeeze or a caress. She did a package check on me.
Just a full hand sort of like, size.
Like, and I'm like, "Oh my God." And I said it out loud without thinking. Like, "Oh my God, you just package checked me." And she goes, "Wait, you know about that?" I'm like, "I've been around the block once or twice. I know what a package check feels like."
I've been a UPS driver, honey.
And we both just busted out laughing.
Aw.
Because it was like, "I can't believe you called me on that."
If you would you have not said that if you'd thought about it, or you would?
Oh no, I know. I was in my mid-40s. Now I'm in my late 40s. I still have nothing to lose. So
Fair. Might as well just say it out loud.
at least all our cards are on the table, everybody.
So after the calling out of the package checking, did it work out, or was it equally kind of like was it equal parts like laughing, absurdity, funness?
The nookie happened, but it was like fun and absurd. Just a lot of laughing, a lot of giggling, just having fun. So there wasn't that me calling out the package check embarrassed everybody in the room. So it was
Broke
pretty
the ice, so to speak, right?
Yes. So the ice was well broken.
Lowered the anxiety level.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good story. I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not a bad story. It's not an uncomfortable story. I think it's hilarious.
Damn it, I gotta get better at my uncomfortable questions.
I have an uncomfortable question for you.
Dear God.
What was the most awkward time you've ever had when you accidentally disclosed a kink to somebody?
Oh. Oh. Oh God. So this is kind of why I have the 1 drink maximum rule for first time sexing because language it's because I like power plays. I like sort of like dominance moves. I like that. I dig that. That's kind of my jam, right? And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but after like 5 or 6 drinks, I'm not quite as articulate as I think I am. And I, say things in my head that's not exactly how they come out of my mouth. And I want to give instruction, and that was this. Just it. So we're mostly naked, having sexy time, and both of us fumbling drunk. Right, it's not that super sexy of a story about that, but I'm sort of like trying to get the, pull my hair, kind of, be more dominant. I'm trying to give like be more dominant kind of cues, and really all that comes out are just like random nouns and verbs. Hair, hurts, mean, ow. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Why aren't you doing things? Yeah." And he's like, "Is there a sentence there?" I'm like, "Let's just fuck this, right? Let me just go vanilla." That's actually what happened. Is I was like, I could not accurately articulate it, and I did realize I was just sort of like randomly word association, tossing out Tourette's kinds of like cues, and that was actually the key to me to being like, hey, sobriety
Right on.
is a prerequisite for this kind of sex.
Yeah, it's like your first time. It's don't go out and expect to tie one on.
No, it doesn't work as well as you think it will.
Yeah, because one, it's just at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a cocktail together, it's okay, but don't go any farther.
It's just not as good. I think that's what it comes down to is you're just sloppy, and sloppy sex is fun as a once a year appetizer, right?
Yeah.
It as a steady diet, it just sucks, and not in a good way. Sorry.
No.
Well, I don't know if we've addressed anybody's burning questions about sex over 40. I feel like we've run the gamut on
Ran the gamut. A lot of jokes.
a lot of jokes.
But honestly, communicate. Like we keep going back to that.
I always want to kind of shame you that that's the therapist answer, but I know it's actually true. It really is. Communication is key.
Yeah, it's. Don't be afraid to talk about it, because one, you're talking, if you like this individual and you want sex to work, you want that to be a part of the relationship, you're already thinking in that tone.
Well, I mean, even if you don't want a relationship, you definitely don't want like a night of bad sex, or just randomly tossing out nonsensical cues. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming on this journey with me, Blake Thompson.
No worries, Bonnie Neal. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
And remember, we love feedback, information, rotten vegetables, topic ideas. Please send it to info@drinkingwithyourx.com. We are here for you.
So I think it's time for that refill.